Hello, my name's Nathan. I'm a student at the Orpheus Academy of Music, and I have been for 4.5 years now. I study piano with Mr. Gordon and voice with Miss Chelsea, and also I take a music theory class with Klondike College Music Theory. I can sing, I can play the piano, I can play guitar, and I can play the mandolin, but I mainly compose for piano. The piece I'm going to be talking about today I wrote a couple months ago. It's a lullaby in E major. The first step, I like to think of it in steps, of how you write music is what is your instrument? My instrument that I'm talking about is piano that I wrote this piece for. And but if you're playing like guitar, what's for guitar, Or if you're playing violin, what do you write for violin? And some pieces of music don't work as well on other instruments, and it's important to keep that in mind. The second thing you want to know is what do you want to write? I wanted to write a lullaby, so it's soft, mezzo piano, it's slow-ish, 90 beats per minute. I could have made it in 3/4, but I felt like it would be better in 4/4, so it's in 4/4. The second thing you want to know is, I guess for piano, not really for other instruments, you have to, where are your hands going to go? Where do you start? Is it up or down? And you also want to know which hand is the melody. Usually it's the right hand, it is in this song. And you want to know how you're going to compose. This is very important. Okay, so listen. You can write with a motif, or you can write with a chord progression. A motif, which kind of like a riff on a guitar. Or, in classical music, the most famous example would probably be Beethoven's Fifth, where it's like ba 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 ba, short, 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 long. Everybody knows that. That's famous. That song isn't famous because of the chord progression. It's famous because of the motif. But other songs are famous for their chord progression. So if we're talking classical music, a lot of Bach stuff is famous for its chord progression because that's how it's written. You don't think of that like eighth notes. You think of it because of the chord progression. So that's how you want to think about that. So for this piece, I wanted to write a motif because I wanted it to be more of a melody than expression of chords. And so the motif for this song is it's staccato. And remember that because it shows up a lot in the song. That's what I want you to remember. So I start off with the bass line, which I wanted to make kind of like a rocking sound. I didn't intend to do that, but it kind of ended up that way, which happens a lot. It's like a rocking sound, kind of like a like a cradle or whatever, I guess, if it's lullaby. So it's like this. That's how that goes. You start off, and then where does it want to go next? That's what I did. And then you do it again. So that's how it went. And then you do it a third time. And so it's and then I was like, okay, that set us up for a thing, like an ending. But it's not really an ending. So I did this thing. And then that set us up back for the main thing, which is what happened next. So that was the first part, and then I crescendoed to mezzo forte to that last part. And then now for the B section, we decrescendo back to pianissimo, which is quieter than we started. And I wanted to make it sound more smooth for this part, so everything's slurred. There's no staccato at the beginning. So I wanted to make it it sound like it's like rolling down a hill. And then I did that thing that is kind of a romantic composer thing, where you do like the, and I made that like expressive, but it's just 8 notes. But I think it sounds cooler if you add the tension, which is another thing to incorporate in music. Make sure you add tension, because otherwise it's boring. So that's the middle section, and then you repeat that. So you do the middle section twice, and then, so for context, and then, because it goes like that, and that's the whole thing. That's like, you never end, you sort of end, but make sure it can keep going. And if it doesn't work out, it's always okay to go back. It's something to remember. So you start on the next part, which is what I did. And I wanted to make the bass line stop and make you think like, okay, I need to focus on the right hand now, when your ears focus. And you close it out. I'm going to show you how to close it out. So that was the whole thing, where it was like, we're coming back to loudness. And not loudness, because it's still mezzo piano, but you know what I mean. And then now we're back to the beginning, it seems, because we go right, we end it almost immediately, and you think, wow, that's crazy. And we do this thing again. And we ritardando to the end. So I wanted to make you think like, it's slowing down, and you're asleep. And that's the end of the song. There's a fermata at the end, on that last G, to make sure you make it as dramatic as possible, just because that's fun. And so, now that we did all that, now that you've written your piece, it's important to go back and listen to it again. And it's important to also, if you play it yourself, and you notice yourself doing something that it's not in the music, you need to add that. So, now that you've written your piece, I like to mark down how long it is, just, to have that in mind. You name it. Now, the composers, it's usually the thing that you're writing, number blank in key. And I don't think I'd ever write another lullaby, but just in case, I named this one Lullaby Number 1 in E major. Listening back on my music when I play it myself, you start to notice, like, your style or whatever, because everybody has their different style of music that they write. And you start to notice that, like, everything that I write is perfect. And I don't mean perfect, because nothing's perfect, but you start to think, like, wow, that's exactly how I would have written it, and it's because you wrote it, which is, I think, really awesome, because sometimes when I listen to other people's music, even the greatest composers, like Bach or whatever, I'm like, I don't really like that song, and you know why? It's because I would have done something different. So you get to write it yourself. And now that I've talked about composing and all that, I'm going to play, to the best of my ability, this piece. So thank you for watching this tutorial-ish thing, and go out and write your own music, because it takes practice, and you gotta practice. So go practice. Okay. Thank you. Bye.